The week started hot in Minnesota. The atmosphere inside the Vikings locker room is not just one of anticipation, it is filled with tension and upheaval. Insider sources talk about moves that could completely reshape the offense before Week 7. And when it comes to bold changes, fans already start wondering who could be coming in to revitalize this group that, despite being full of talent, still hasn't really clicked. The name echoing behind the scenes is familiar, productive, and above all, available. It is no exaggeration to say that Minnesota, at this point in the season, is balancing between hope and frustration. Injuries have been a major issue for the roster, the quarterback rotation has brought instability, and trusted targets have become unpredictable. Adam Thielen, the veteran who returned home seeking one last great run, has only 4 receptions in 5 games. The impact that was expected simply did not materialize, and the reads within Kevin O'Connell's system made it clear the receiving core needs fresh blood. TJ Hockenson, meanwhile, has been quietly sacrificing, acting more as a blocker than an aerial threat, a role he himself did not expect to take on after the injury. The coach has already admitted the offensive line is demanding too much from him, and this has taken away part of the tight end's explosiveness within the game plan. In this scenario, it's easy to understand why the rumors started gaining traction, and soon you will see why this new name could be exactly the missing piece to turn the Vikings offense into something frightening again. There is a specific target in the AFC West who could come to Minnesota. Wide receiver Jakobi Meyers of the Las Vegas Raiders is the name at the center of this whirlwind. The 28-year-old wide receiver, at the end of his contract and unhappy with the situation in Vegas, has resurfaced on the league's list of potential trades. The Raiders' recent performance, mired in a string of losses and on the verge of selling veterans, has reignited the interest of several teams, and Minnesota is among those keeping a close eye. The truth is that Meyers is not just another good available receiver. He is a piece that carries exactly the profile the Vikings offense has lost: consistency and versatility. With 62.8% of snaps aligned in the slot this season, he is the kind of player capable of providing immediate red options for quarterbacks who are still adjusting, something J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz have been missing since September. While Justin Jefferson continues to carry nearly 40% of all the team's passing yards, the offense has become predictable. Opponents know that without reliable help on intermediate routes, Minnesota's game plan becomes rigid. This was evident in recent losses, and it is exactly what a name like Jakobi Meyers could change. In 2024, he surpassed 1,000 yards and proved to be a constant threat on third downs, something Thielen dominated at his peak, but that now seems distant. The detail is that this trade would not require a high sacrifice. The Raiders would accept a modest return, possibly a day 3 pick in the 2026 draft. For a team still believing in the playoffs, this bold move makes sense. But wait, there is an even deeper strategic reason behind this move. It is not just about adding talent, it is about freeing TJ Hockenson. Since the start of the season, the tight end has been used as a blocking reinforcement, especially after the loss of key pieces on the offensive line. His route count has dropped drastically, with a 77% increase in blocking snaps compared to the last 2 seasons. This explains why he has yet to surpass 50 yards in any game. O'Connell's plan is clear. If the team brings in a reliable slot receiver, Hockenson can return to his natural habitat, attacking the middle of the field and creating mismatches against linebackers. Later on, you will understand how this role change could transform the offense's efficiency, especially against the Eagles' defense in Week 7. The arrival of Meyers would also serve to fix an obvious gap. The trio of players occupying the slot so far, Hockenson, Thielen, and Jalen Nailor, combined for only 315 yards and 2 touchdowns in 5 games. This is the kind of production that simply does not sustain a team aiming to compete in January. And when you compare this with Meyers' output over the same period, the difference is striking. Even in a disorganized offense like the Raiders, he has already totaled 290 yards and is constantly targeted in critical situations. He does not need 10 targets to make an impact. Efficiency is what matters, and he delivers it. Additionally, his versatility allows him to line up both in the slot and on the outside, giving Jefferson the freedom to exploit deeper zones, something Minnesota has been trying to force unsuccessfully in recent weeks. It is interesting how this potential trade resurrects a lesson the team already experienced with Thielen. When he emerged, he too was an underestimated player, coming from nowhere who earned his space through work and consistency. Jakobi Meyers has the same DNA, an ex-undrafted player shaped by the need to prove his worth on every snap. The difference is that he is at his physical and technical peak, running clean routes with a mature understanding of coverage. And for a team that today relies so heavily on Jefferson's brilliance, bringing in someone who knows how to occupy the spaces he leaves would be like rebalancing the offensive board. Some argue that investing in another wide receiver is a luxury, but just look at the statistics to see that it is survival. Hockenson blocking more than receiving, Thielen struggling to stay productive, Addison inconsistent off the field, and Jefferson overloaded. This is the portrait of an offense facing one of the most aggressive defenses in the league in the next round. Against the Eagles, who consistently apply pressure and cover the deep field well, relying on a single star practically puts the Vikings offense at risk. Minnesota needs immediate alternatives and someone who can turn third downs into new drives. There are internal talks evaluating double-use scenarios with Meyers and Jefferson lined up together on the same side, something that could surprise even the most prepared defense. The most interesting part is that this rumor, far from being pure fan optimism, has concrete tactical and economic foundations. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, the general manager, has already shown willingness to invest in mid-season reinforcements when the team shows competitiveness. He did this in 2022 with Hockenson, and now, with the same sense of urgency and an offense crying for help, repeating the bold move would make perfect sense. Additionally, Meyers' contract is short, making him a low-risk, high-reward bet, perfect for testing the fit without compromising the franchise's future. Behind all this movement, there is also the emotional factor. Fans can feel when the team is trying to respond. And at this moment, the atmosphere is one of immediate rebuilding. Jefferson still believes, McCarthy wants to prove his value, and O'Connell seems willing to move whatever pieces are necessary to reignite the team's fire. And if that flame returns, we may look back at this week as the turning point of the season, the moment Minnesota decided not to accept the role of a supporting player. And before we move on to the next details of this potential trade, I'll say this. There are signs that the talks are more advanced than they appear, and not just distant observations. It is possible that, even before the game against Philadelphia, the Vikings locker room could have a new face sharing the spotlight with Jefferson. And if that name is really Jakobi Meyers, Minnesota's offense could finally return to everything it promised: fast, creative, and lethal. Shortly, we will break down how Meyers' potential arrival could change Thielen's routes and free Hockenson to attack the intermediate field as in 2023, an adjustment that could completely redefine Kevin O'Connell's offensive plan before Week 7. If the Jakobi Meyers rumor once seemed like just a behind-the-scenes speculation, in the past few hours it has started to sound like a real strategic plan. Internal talks within the Vikings revolve around one central point: reconfiguring the offense before the season gets out of control. The team has talent, but has lost synchronization. Kevin O'Connell's scheme, which has always relied on multiple reads and fine adjustments, has become predictable. And Meyers' potential arrival is more than a search for talent. It is an attempt to recover the tactical identity that has been lost since the offensive line injuries and the decline in production from Hockenson and Thielen. Shortly, you will understand how a single player can reopen the playbook that seemed frozen since September. Behind the scenes, there is a clear reading. The current offense is being limited by role, not by lack of talent. Hockenson, once one of the most productive tight ends in the league, has been shifted to heavy blocking duties, accumulating 6.4% of snaps as a pass protector, nearly double his previous average. This completely changes the dynamics. When the tight end is not a threat in the middle of the field, opposing safeties move up, compress the space, and make life even harder for McCarthy and Wentz. The addition of Meyers could flip this board, forcing defenses to open coverage and freeing Hockenson to return to running intermediate routes, where he is practically unguardable against linebackers. This simple adjustment could allow Minnesota to gain the yards that currently seem impossible. Adam Thielen is another key point in this equation. The veteran who returned as a local hero faces the discomfort of seeing his role diminish. He has participated in nearly half of the offensive snaps, but with only 8 targets and 4 receptions, numbers that highlight the lack of chemistry with the quarterbacks and perhaps the natural arrival of age. Even so, Thielen still holds leadership value and route reading ability. In a scenario with Meyers on the roster, he could shift to situational packages, acting on short third downs and in the red zone, where his experience and ability to find space remain valuable. Shortly, I'll show you how this role change could extend Thielen's career and transform the offense into something more unpredictable. The psychological impact of this potential move also does not go unnoticed. The Vikings roster has endured weeks of uncertainty, injuries, improvisations, and fan pressure. A trade of this magnitude would send a clear signal that the front office still believes. It would be the same type of positive shock that occurred when Hockenson arrived in 2022, and the locker room responded with renewed energy. This kind of message carries weight. It says the season is still alive. And if there is a moment to take a risk, it is now before the game against the Eagles, against a defense that punishes synchronization errors. Meanwhile, Meyers' tactical fit is already being discussed in internal projections. He would not come just to be Jefferson's sidekick. The plan would be to use bunch and stack formations with both on the same side of the field, allowing for quick crosses and instant quarterback release under pressure. This type of configuration recalls the system O'Connell used in Los Angeles, where Cooper Kupp dominated the center while another wide receiver created vertical threats. And there is confidence that Meyers can replicate part of this role: less speed, more precision, and smart reading. In other words, the complement that Jefferson has never had consistently. Shortly, you will understand why O'Connell's plan with two quick red wide receivers could be the key against high-pressure defenses like the Eagles. The move also makes financial sense. Meyers' contract expires at the end of the year, which would allow the Vikings to test him without compromising the cap. If the fit works, the team could extend the deal in the offseason, consolidating a solid trio with Jefferson and Addison. If it does not work, the bet carries minimal cost, likely a late draft pick. This combination of low risk and high reward is the type of decision that defines executives like Adolfo Mensa, who has already shown courage in critical moments. More than just a trade, what is at stake is the restoration of an offensive system that has lost rhythm and confidence. The team needs fluidity, someone who can convert third downs and keep drives alive. And if the move happens before Week 7 against the Eagles, we will see the first major test of a new offensive identity. A Minnesota team that plays fast, distributes the ball better, and frees its stars to shine. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.